with all the films I've seen during the time I've been doing this show, or just during the time I've been reviewing movies in general, I've realized one thing about genre. A film is never solely one genre, and this is especially visible in horror films. I mean, for example, Predator is a horror film, but it's also an action film. Frankenstein is a horror film, but it's also science fiction. The Haunting, and I'm talking about the 1963 version, not the really terrible remake, is a horror film, but also a psychological thriller. When it comes to Crimson Peak, I feel that Del Toro doesn't quite understand that here. Don't get me wrong, Del Toro has made some entertaining movies, it's just that here we have the bad kind of horror film. The kind where people think, oh, just throw in some ghosts and some zombies and a bunch of blood-colored stuff, and we automatically have a horror film. Now, before you comment, I know they actually address this in the first act of the film, but just because you address the fact that your film has a flaw, it doesn't make the flaw go away. The reason I mention this is because the biggest problem with this film is that it's a little overindulgent when it comes to how it shows its ghosts. I'm one of those people that believes that less is more when it comes to horror films, and Crimson Peak is an example of how putting too much into a moment cheapens its impact. It's over-reliant on CGI and visual effects, and the ghosts are over-designed to the point where they aren't that scary. By showing us the corpse-like specters in such an over-the-top way, you take away all semblance of subtlety and mystery and make the film even more predictable. This also highlights another issue I have with the story. It tries to build a sense of mystery, but it doesn't cover its tracks very well. The more eagle-eyed observers in the audience will be able to figure out details ahead of when they're supposed to be revealed. There are some good twists and turns here and there, but I was left asking this question by the film's end. Did ghosts need to be in this story in order for it to work? My answer is no, it didn't. The whole mystery is grounded in reality, and the presence of ghosts adds very little. It spells too much out for the audience to the point where the mystery just isn't really even that fun or engaging. Now, the moments where our main heroine is actually investigating and uncovering secrets on her own were pretty engaging, but those moments were minimal as the film is more focused on showcasing spooky imagery rather than telling a story. As for what works with this film, it has a good sense of atmosphere. The sets are well crafted and it makes a good use of color for the most part, until you get to the middle of the film where it's quick to remind you that the red clay looks like blood. Ooh! Overall, this film is focused on showing spooky visuals rather than telling a story. It's over-reliant on visual effects and is too overt with its paranormal themes. Not to mention that the paranormal aspects of the story don't add anything of substance to the film and could have been cut from the film without taking away anything of substance. It lacks the subtlety needed to make a ghost story work, and the mystery of the film isn't well thought out. This is only a horror film on the surface level, and it lacks any real depth to make it worth watching. This isn't so much The Haunting as it is 13 Ghosts, where the main draw is visual gimmickry. As such, it's not really worth the ticket price to see it in IMAX. I mean, if you really must see it in theater, then limit it to a dollar theater because it's not worth anything more than that. All of that said, Crimson Peak gets a 3 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. I look forward to reading all of the fanboy rage comments below, but until then, I'll see you all next time.